Verse 61. As the picture shows highness and lowness, while in reality there is nothing of the sort in it, so in things existent there is thingness seen as real, while there is nothing of this sort in them. In verse 60 we deconstructed the individual. And in these next two verses we're deconstructing the world. Why? So we can get back to our essential nature, our essential sense of being, or suchness, fata. So we live apparently in a world of things. Surely this is real. It's solid. It has shape, colour, texture. This particular thing doesn't have a smell. I'm not sure what the taste would be, but it must be real. Well, I could do all of that in a dream, couldn't I? And say exactly the same thing. And if I was talking to you in the dream, you would agree, yes, it's real. But after we've woken up, we know it's not real. And enlightenment is sometimes called awakening. We're awakening to what is real. And this, for all its apparent physicality, is not real. The physical world, for all its materiality, for all its material substance, is not real. It's a convention, just like perspective in a picture is a convention for showing distance. So when we look at a flat surface with a painting on it, we don't think of its flatness, we see it as 3 dimensions because of the skill of the artist. It's the mind which gives it that 3rd dimension of depth. This is actually true of the physical world as well. It's only got 2 dimensions. And we're talking about the visual aspect here. It's only got 2 dimensions, but we give it 3 dimensions based on the sense of touch. I can touch this because it's near, but I can't touch the video camera because it's far. So that's depth. We learn to do that. Visually there's only 2 dimensions, but we learn to give it depth because as apparent individuals we can apparently move around in it. Although from a headless perspective there is no self that's moving around in it, there's just a lot of apparent movement going on. So just as perspective is an illusion, so is this thingness. The idea that this is essentially a thing, an entity in itself. This is an illusion. And we can deconstruct it from a conventional perspective and see how it's an assemblage of parts which ultimately were atoms and which ultimately will break down to these atoms at some point in the future. So we understand it in time. This isn't so much a thing as a process. So you can do that kind of preliminary contemplation and break it down and dissolve its apparent thingness. But it's a bit deeper than that. It's a bit deeper. Because even the things of which it consists of, atoms, are no more than notional conventions. So there is nothing of this sort in them. verse 62 takes this a bit further. The visible world has always the appearance of the city of the Gandharvas and that of fata morgana. It is to be regarded as such, but it does not thus exist to the transcendental wisdom of the wise. So the Gandharvas are celestial musicians. They're lower deities. Apparently, if you're a Buddhist, it's a bit embarrassing to be reborn as a Gandharva. But they seem like quite wonderful beings. And they have their castles in the air, which is what fata morgana are. The world is to be regarded as such. Fata morgana, this is named after the enchantress fairy Morgana le Fay, the protagonist of King Arthur. She could spin castles in the air, luring sailors to their destruction. There's a very good article in Wikipedia on Fata Morgana. They're described as a superior mirage. This is what the world is, a superior mirage, just like the mirage of perspective on paper gives the mirage of 3 dimensions. So once we've done our preliminary analysis, broken down the self into the skandhas, broken down physical objects, the material world, into its component parts, that helps dissolve our relationship with them or change our relationship with them. But ultimately, as enlightenment practitioners, once we've touched some kind of fundamental insight, transcendental insight, we begin to appreciate the nature of the world as a fata morgana, as a dream. The thing is about the fata morgana is they are based on something real. It might be a ship on the horizon, and there's various light effects going on which perhaps make the ship appear to be going upside down in the sky. And the reality of the world is based on the reality of consciousness, of awareness. This is the reality of transcendental insight. The realization and appreciation of awareness. This is awareness which gives rise to the illusion. But as spiritual practitioners, we can move from the illusion to reality. And in this is our true sense of being, is the realization of ultimate suchness. In this realization, the powerful illusion of the world begins to diminish and lose its hold, to the point that we can say it no longer exists. It's a convention. It's a convention which we have to go along with as far as everyday affairs are concerned. But in our heart of hearts, we know what's real and what isn't. And what's real will be addressed in the next 2 verses.